for a while. Most of our neighbors have not, just so you know. Put away the wrapping paper, the ribbon, all of the holiday cookies. Well, they were gone a long time ago, if your house is anything like ours. And we are back to having meals that aren't specifically appetizers all the time. And we, of course, are left with our beautiful memories of times we got to spend with friends or family or just with ourselves. And maybe your December was really jam-packed with festivities, but maybe your life is a little more like our house. It's a little quiet around there, but we try to go back and find those traditions that make us happy. And one of the things that makes us happy is watching the 1951 version of A Christmas Carol that has Alastair Sim as Scrooge. I know that there are many versions of the story out there, but that just happens to be our favorite. And it does feature the hymn that you know I used as a place to start with my sermon title today, Comfort and Joy. That came from God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. I know that there can be a lot going on in December. It isn't all celebration, but all of us, I know, also have things that bring us comfort and get us through that time of year and make us feel kind of, I hope, warm and cozy and sort of happy. And I know we've moved on to 2026. I know it's January. I'm going back a little bit. But in my experience, and why I chose today to talk about this is, in my experience, all of that in December sometimes results in January being a little blah, maybe even a little depressing, exhausting. And it doesn't help if we've made resolutions about exercise or diet or any of those things and then found that, on like today, we're not actually doing any of that we said we would do. And who wants to go out well, today is beautiful, but we've had some days that were not exactly encouraging for a brisk walk. But I want you to know that research shows that by this time in January, 50% of people have dropped any illusion of having resolutions. And 90% of them will have quit by the end of February. So if you've already dumped your resolutions, you're just an overachiever, really. You're not alone. And I know it doesn't help when we realize, too, that, January 2nd sort of starts that, at least in my mind, that you look to the future and you go, I don't really have much in my plans. And the warmer weather is not coming anytime soon. And it's sort of a long slog until maybe Easter, maybe you have a trip planned, I don't know. A lot of people's plans have changed about trips south. And we can just feel more isolated and alone. We don't have the holidays as an excuse to get together. The weather can be truly an impediment. And just that change of moving from the high anticipation and the excitement of December, it really hits us in January. And it just feels like a long time till spring. I know February has 28 days, but I will not swear to it because most years it feels like it has about 85 to me. Yeah. Is it still? We know more now, too, about the impacts of winter blues. I mean, people have said for years that, January is not a great time, but now we have a name for seasonal affective disorder. So we know that there are things, and clinically it's true, that things change when we get to January. And of course, 2025 was a bit of a tumultuous year. And now we're looking at 2026, and I don't know about you, but some of us are sort of looking forward and going, more of the same. And I saw this by a columnist named William Thomas this last week in the Hamilton Spectator. And he said, well, there's a lot of bad things going on, a lot of things we're not very happy about. And of course, not to mention that the most powerful man in the world is more disturbed than a beagle in a squirrel sanctuary. So 2026 may be a bit challenging as well. So what are we going to do? How are we going to get through this? How are we going to keep moving forward? Our life goes on, whether there's squirrels to distract us or someone else or not. So what are we going to do? And I know that we hear the mantra out there all the time now about self-care. You've got to do self-care. And of course, as anything, gosh, I'm being cynical today. Anyways, as so many things come along as fads, and then, of course, in order to get on the wellness train, it usually involves a commercial endeavor that is asking you to spend a great deal of money to make that happen. So you can no longer just do, as an example, do your yoga in your comfortable sweatpants and funky socks. Now you have to have, the athletic wear, and there's just thousands of products and approaches and programs and steps that you're encouraged to start and buy and use and follow to live with a sense of fulfillment, because it's almost like, heaven knows we couldn't figure it out for ourselves, what would make us happy, but we can. I know that there are also approaches to spiritual development and personal support for ourselves and for wholeness that have been available for centuries, long before product lines were available to make the pursuit of wellness into this sort of faddish behavior. So one of the places I would suggest you start on your pursuit of comfort and joy is to find a spiritual practice that speaks to your soul. It's easy and it's meaningful to you when you follow it, and that you think that you might even be able to continue to practice. And it doesn't have to be for hours a day, and you don't have to sit on a special cushion, and you don't have to buy any special products. You just have to try and do it. You might try a prayer practice. You might get into different expressions through arts and music. Maybe a movement or a body or exercise practice. Things you could do indoors, things that you can do outdoors. Things you can do by yourself, things that you can do with others that draw your attention to your inner self and help you build a better relationship with your soul. And don't listen to that stuff out there that's just a distraction and is there to convince you that you can't personally know yourself best. Yes, you can. Trust yourself. If you wake up one morning and go, I think what would work for me, and I've done this before, and what would work for me is a nice cup of tea, and then a walk around the neighborhood, and then I come back and I think about the things that I saw when I was out on my walk. I think that would work for me. Oh, but I don't have the right athletic pants or the right walking shoes. You do. Just do it. Do what works for you. And also notice that these are practices, not perfections. Practicing sometimes looks like getting it really close to ideal, and sometimes finding out that we're not even able to gather our attention to focus for more than a couple minutes. And that's just the way it is. That's actually one of the joys of practice. It's hilarious if you give yourself a sense of humor and go, well, here I am. Today, not quite as successful as I'd hoped to be, but I did it for a few minutes, so that's good. That's a good start. There is joy in that practice. There's joy in actually not having to be perfect for it to actually work for you. You do the best you can with sincerity and on a regular basis. Commit yourself. Enter into your own search of self and just see how it goes. Be gentle with yourself. Congratulate yourself for trying and trying again to build your effort to match your intention. I'm very sure that you are familiar with this statement that, that God helps those who help themselves. Originally, that came to us from the ancient Greeks, but it was, of course, made popular by Ben Franklin's Poor Richard's Almanac. We know it is not a Bible verse, and Unitarians wouldn't mind anyway, but it certainly reflects a common understanding of how we work together in cooperation with as humans with sort of divine intention, divine assistance, divine inspiration, whatever you want to call that. Our spiritual connection provides grace and hope in the possible, and then we provide the initiative. And it's also said we are the hands of the divine in the world. So if you find yourself with the winter blues, I think one of the better strategies is to find ways to connect with yourself and with others and reach out and make yourself available in the world and give up trying to control things that you can't control. Donald gave you a great idea. We got wonderful volunteer and other opportunities here at the church. If you need something to do, just ask. And there's all kinds of things out in the community as well, of course. So making yourself a part of a community of people who are as committed to being whole and congruent and engaged as you would like to be, as you intend to be. Your participation in this congregation speaks to your understanding of the importance of community in helping us create full and fulfilling lives. I believe that there is only so much we can know about ourselves in isolation. It takes the bouncing off of other people to find out that, gosh, other people have different customs, they have different languages, they have different points of view. What do you mean I'm not right? Those kind of things help us understand that we are in a complex and interesting world, and we have a lot to learn. And even though people may support other causes than we do or have different lifestyles, they are still good, wholesome, sincere, and engaged members of our community. And they can become our friends and allies. They can help us see alternatives and options. And we can celebrate each other's victories and mourn each other's losses and just be there for each other. Now, I know that when we are in those moments when our lives feel chaotic and kind of out of control, uncomfortable, one of the ways that we tend to want to address that and get things sort of back in focus is to attempt to exert control. And it's in those moments that, in this illustration, our wheels tighten on the steering a lot. We want to make sure that everything is being handled in the way that makes us most comfortable. We want to feel like we have the power to make things go right according to our understandings and expectations. And we want people to do what we think is right and proper and good, and that would be follow us. We know exactly what to do. And I'm sorry, but the bad news of that strategy is that there are so very many things in life we cannot control. And that is sometimes a great disappointment. None of us will get to set tomorrow's temperature or determine the amount of precipitation, whatever it might look like. We're not going to be able to predict and manage all of the actions of people around us. And often we find that our expectations are frustrated and we feel disappointed in life and certainly in other humans. Now, the good news is that if we focus on what we can control, we open the door to greater satisfaction and joy and ease. We are best served by acknowledging that most of the things in the world are really, if you think about it, outside your control. And therefore, we should, and we could, and we can give ourselves permission to stop constantly worrying about them, attempting to strong-arm them into our way of being, and expecting results that will meet our specific expectations. Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, some things are in our control and others not. The things that are in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, and in a word, whatever is not of our action. So I know when we're unhappy, when we're convinced that nothing will ever change, or if we are unsure of what to do next, it's a good time to sit down and take an inventory of what about the situation is something that we actually can control. And then plan to start taking small but meaningful steps in the direction of our goal. Understanding that most of the world is not in your control, in my mind, is not an excuse to give up. It's a reason to refocus our attention on the things that we actually can have an impact on. And mostly that's about our own thinking, our own behavior, our own interactions, and how we show up in the world. And the things that you can't control, well, it's good to start by realizing that worry will not make these things move into the sphere of your control. Then start taking small but meaningful steps to let go of worry and replace it with messages that remind you of what's yours to manage and what belongs to others. This came up recently in a conversation I had with a friend while in the pool, actually. She was sharing her frustration in dealing with one of her siblings, her sister, who seems to consistently make choices and decisions that are not in her personal best interests. Both of these women are well over 70, by the way, so it's been going on for a while. The sister discounts and rejects any suggestions to take a more productive or healthy action. And then she needs, of course, at some point on a regular basis, she needs to be bailed out by her siblings and help to get her life back in order, or close to order. So my friend shared how this scenario has played out all of their lives and how exhausted she feels when she realizes it's happening again. She loves her sister. It's not that. She's just tired. And so she came in one day bright and cheery and happy, and she said, I found a book that's helping, or at least helping the way I'm thinking about things. And I said, oh, that's always good. I'm sure you've heard of Mel Robbins. This was a book that came out recently called The Let Them Theory. How many of you have heard of it? You've heard of it? Yeah, lots of hands. Heard of it. Some people are using it in their book group. I mean, I've heard all that. I haven't read it myself, but I've heard about it a lot. So she, in this book, is emphasizing personal empowerment through the focus on the concepts of let them and let me. And she suggests that individuals need to relinquish control over others and focus on their own growth and happiness, emotional well-being, and personal development. So she's saying, in these situations that you can't control, learn a few things about emotional detachment. Take yourself out of the picture. Let go of the things you think you need to control. And then let me is about shifting one's focus to upholding your own self-accountability. So you stay integrity with your own emotional and mental boundaries. So then she was telling me after Christmas, her sister asked, can I help? And she said, well, yeah, you could set the table. And wouldn't you know it, she set the table wrong. At least to my friend's expectations. The way she imagined that any table should look like. Her sister didn't do that. And she said, but you know, I'm really proud of myself. And I said, what, you only moved the spoons? She said, I didn't move anything. I just let them be there. And you know, we all had a really good meal. Good job. I want to tell you about 3 helpful pieces of advice I have gotten in my life. The first was from a county extension agent I worked with when I was a kid in the States. And county extension agents work with agriculture, and they work with farmers and ranchers, and they provide advice and those kind of things. And this guy said, this is a little poster he had up in his wall. It said, sure, we can get you oats. If you want clean, first quality oats, it's going to cost you. If you're looking for a lower price and you don't care much about quality, well, we can get you those oats too, but you'll have to wait until they come out the other end of the horse. Another one I heard from a minister supervisor, and this was his advice for ministry. Show up, shut up, it's not about you. And you know, that works in a lot of things in life. And the third one was about dealing with tough situations. And it's from Robert Heinlein in his book, Time Enough for Love. And he wrote, "Never try to teach a pig to sing. It will only frustrate you and annoy the pig." And I have to admit, I have my little control thing too. And I have attempted to form porcine choirs of highly reluctant hogs. And I have been humbled more than once in my futile attempts to inspire or force or push or encourage or demand or threaten people to change. And I'll just let you know that it's a lot easier in life if you just stop doing that. And I'm not saying I learned that lesson the first time I tried it. I'm a bit hard-headed that way. So when you are frustrated, move into prayer mode and ask for patience and reassurance. Remember that progress comes gradually and in its time as you take positive steps toward your future. It's the small steps we take in the direction we wish to go that make all of the difference. It helps if we practice them regularly and review our options every once in a while to make sure that we remain on track. And you might want to check in with a friend now and then to see how you're doing. So back to that hymn, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. They say it dates back to the 1500s, although it wasn't put into any printed form until the mid-1700s, and it came out and became more popular after a compilation of hymns and melodies was published in 1833. Some people have said that because Queen Victoria loved carols, she helped popularize singing these various songs, and it may have been that influence that helped bring those carols down to us, and many of them have become quite beloved. We know the words to those when we don't know the words to many other things. But in the 1700s, the term rest was used differently than it is today. So if translated into 2026, the lyrics would actually be, "May God keep you in contented spirits, folks. May God keep you in contented spirits. I wish for you great comfort and joy as we travel through the winter months and on to the year ahead. And may the divine keep you in contented spirits, friends. Amen."